Alright, so I did my 14-day field experience in Wisdom, Montana, the heart of the Big Hole Valley. I chose to do my 14-day field experience here because I live in Jackson, Montana, which is just about 20 minutes away from the school, and I also work on a ranch in the area. I also chose the school because ideally this is where I'll be teaching once I graduate. I chose to do my unit on first grade sight words with the first grade, and I will go into why I chose that grade in an upcoming slide. Contextual factors. The first contextual factor I will go over is the community. Wisdom is a small rural community with about 100 residents, so pretty much everybody knows everybody. The average yearly income is $46,250 per household, which is very small. Knowing that, I expected there to be a few poor students in the school, but was really surprised that it didn't seem this way from what I could tell and from what the teacher had told me. I was also informed by my supervising teacher that the community comes together at the beginning of the school year to purchase supplies for all the students in the school. So if a student doesn't have something, the school is stocked and ready to go. I was really amazed at this, and I thought it was really awesome. The teacher really didn't need to buy anything, which I know is not the case in a lot of classes, and in a lot of schools. The next contextual factor, school. There are two main teachers in the school, but on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, there are two teachers' aides that come in. They don't both come in on those days. They take turns on which one comes in, and they help in the school wherever the teacher needs them to be. The school was built in 1989, and when it was built, they did not build a gym, and because of this, PE is outside. And they have PE outside until the temperature drops to -10, which is pretty cold. When it does get that low, they come inside to do activities. There's never really a lesson plan for PE, they just kind of go outside and play. If there is a plan, there is a Masonic temple just down the road that the school can use. The only problem with this is that it is heated by wood stove and it is not regularly used. So if they want to use the Masonic temple, then the teacher has to get there early in the morning to make sure that it is heated up and that there's a good fire going so it is warm when they get to it. In the Wisdom School, kindergarten meets every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And that is also when the teacher's aides are there, which can be a big help because even though it's only 4 extra students, that is a big energy difference in the school. You can tell as soon as they walk in that kindergartners are there. So as far as classrooms go, there's 2 classrooms. They have what they call a little room and a big room. The little room has grades K through 3, but there are only 3 kindergartners and 4 first graders. In the big classroom, they have 4th through 8th grade, but this year they have 1 5th grader, 1 6th grader, and 3 8th graders. When the kindergartners are there, there are 4 girls and 3 boys in the small room, and in the big room, there are 2 girls and 3 boys. Climate. The entire school is very welcoming with a jungle theme throughout. There are jungle animals and jungle vines, fake jungle vines throughout the school, and it is just a very welcoming place. It is also very well organized, the classrooms are, and set up to allow flow, which is not hard because there's only 12 students in the entire school. Both rooms have smart boards and big, large windows in the back that let in a lot of light. In the upper grades room, in the big room, they have what they call classroom economy, or I believe it's called wisdom bucks. The students receive money for the jobs that they do in the classroom, which the teacher has already set up. They also receive money for getting good grades on homework and tests. In addition to the money they make, they also have to pay rent on their desks, which is $900 a month, and then if they have enough money, they can buy their desks for $1,200 a month. If they buy their desks, then they have to pay property tax. The students then can spend their money at market days, and market days are days when the entire school brings in stuff to sell, such as cookies. Somebody brought in duct tape wallets, somebody brought in slime, and the students can just buy whatever they want as long as they have the money and they can pay their rent. If the students have a messy desk, they can also get fined for having a messy desk. I have not seen that, and I do not know how much the fine is, but it is a great incentive. My teacher is awesome. I cannot say enough good things about her. The first thing that she does is she questions the students for understanding. She doesn't just ask them like, oh, how are you type questions. She asks them questions that have to do with the homework to make sure they are understanding the lesson. She also has what she calls a daily practice, and this was set up. This essentially what it is it's more practice for what they learned the day before. For example, if on Monday she taught a math lesson on proportions, on Tuesday the daily practice would be about proportions to make sure that the student understood what she taught. She also gives super helpful feedback. With having a few different grades in the classroom, she has to make sure that everything is running smoothly, and she is very with it. She can be teaching one student at the teach time desk and then be giving feedback to an 8th grader who's doing something else. She's also very flexible with student learning. For example, there's a 5th grader in the school who's been there since he was in kindergarten, but he's still on the 4th grade math book. She explained that he was a little bit slower and decided to have him finish the 4th grade math book before going on to the 5th grade so that he understood everything, which I think is really smart. I did ask her about what happens if he doesn't get caught up, and by the time he gets into 8th grade and he's behind, and she said she's done this a few times and that rarely ever happens. So that's good. My next slide is about my ute. So like I said before, I did a sight words lesson with the first graders. I chose the 1st graders because they have the most students, with 4 students, which I know isn't a lot, but I figured it would help my TWS. Essentially, I would really like to teach 3rd or 4th grade, but being as it is a rural school, that probably will not happen if I do ever teach there. So yeah, I decided to use the 1st graders because they have 4 students. I chose to do a sight word lesson after I saw them working on phonics and sight words in their class. My supervising teacher gave me a Basil reader that they were working out of, and I just used the words from the next 5 lessons. I believe there were 24 words within those 4 lessons. For my pre-assessment, I wrote all the words on flashcards and took the students out into the hallway and had them read off the flashcards. The overall mean for the class for the pre-assessment was 65.25%, which was pretty low. My first lesson I chose to do was a seek and find activity, and as you will hear and see, all my lessons were games for the students. So the first one was seek and find. I put post-it notes around the school with the first words from the sight words list that I had created. We start this lesson by sitting in front of the whiteboard, and we went over the words. I had the students practice sounding them out. Sorry. We practiced sounding them out, and then when it was time, when I decided that they had gone over the sight words enough, we went out into the hallway to start the activity. Before we started the activity, I went over a few rules. One of the big ones was only walking. They were very excited, and I knew that they might be running, so I made sure that there's only going to be walking. Once they found a post-it note, they had to put their finger on it and wait for further instruction. Once I said it was okay, they took the post-it note from the wall and came to me. We then went around and sounded out or read the word off the post-it note. We did that for a few times, and then by the end of it, I had students using the words they had found in a sentence. They really enjoyed this activity. For the second lesson, we played sight word hopscotch. To start, we sat in front of the board and reviewed the words from the last lesson, and then I introduced 5 new words. Once we had reviewed all the words, I had the students help me set up the hopscotch. We just had bases that they use for PE, and they helped me set them out, and they are very excited to help. After setting it up, I placed note cards with the words on them upside down on the spots. At first, I gave the students one beanbag, and whichever space it landed on, they had to hop to it and read the word off the card. After a few rounds, I gave them more beanbags, and they had to hop to each spot and sound out all the words. Finally, near the end, with 3 beanbags, they had to make a sentence with all 3 words. If they couldn't make one sentence with all 3 words, then they did 3 sentences, each with one of the words. For lesson 3, I created sight word bingo again. We started off in front of the board and reviewed the words from the previous lessons, and then I introduced new words. Once we had done that, we went over to a teach time table, and what that is a U-shaped table that the teacher has set up, and that is where the students go to have teach time with their teacher. So that's where we went. The students were very excited to play, and they were very excited that we were using the bingo daughters. I showed them exactly how I wanted them to use them because I had seen them use the daughters before, and I know they can get a bit out of hand. I explained if they did not use the daughters exactly how I wanted them to, I would take them away and they would use little chips or coins instead of the daughters. We didn't have any problems with them at all. For the sight word part of the activity, I had a bowl full of the words that were on the bingo sheets, and I had the students go around and pick a word out of the bowl. And the word they picked, they had to read off of the card. The only problem I had with this lesson is that I had one little girl win 3 times, and one little boy that did not win any time. And I think we played 5 times. So he was pretty upset. But we just explained that, sometimes you can't win, and that hopefully next time he would win. And he was fine after that. Not upset at all. For the 4th lesson, we played sight word memory. We began by reviewing all of the words, and I introduced new words. This lesson was a little bit harder for me because I had the kindergartners, and I know that's only 3 more students, but just their energy levels in the room just was wild. After we reviewed all the words, we came and sat around the memory board, and I had all the words and their pairs set up in a big spot on the floor. At first, everyone just played by themselves, and it was really funny because a kindergartner he found the first few matches, and he was ecstatic. Having 7 people around the board it was going pretty slow, so I had the kindergartners team up with a 1st grader to finish the game. By the end of it, the kindergartners were even learning the words and could just say them from seeing them, so that was really cool. For my 5th lesson, we played sight word dominoes. I made a huge set of all the sight words on them, and start this lesson again, we reviewed all the words, and there are no new ones to introduce, so this was just a big review. Once we reviewed them, we went to the carpet, and each student drew 10 cards. I set the first card down, and then they played off of that card. They informed me that I don't play dominoes correctly, but I told them that this was sight word dominoes, not regular dominoes. The rules were, if you couldn't make a turn off of any of the cards played, you had to draw a new card and then wait for your turn to go again. And the first person to run out of cards won. For the post-assessment, I just used what I used for the pre-assessment. I had flashcards and took them out into the hallway and read them off. They did very well. The class average was then 93.75% with a total knowledge gain of 28.5%. My next slide is co-teaching. So, co-teaching did not go as well as I had hoped. My teacher is very, very organized. She had everything planned out for the next month. She had all of her lessons, everything planned. So, trying to help plan lessons was difficult because, like I said, everything was planned. So I was either teaching or observing. I tried to explain to her what we were supposed to be doing, but it was hard. I did start teaching social studies for 5th and 6th grade, and then I also started teaching 6th grade math. I will be teaching in Wisdom after Christmas. Not teaching, I will be student teaching after Christmas. And we began to talk about what I'll be doing during student teaching, and she wants me to take over 5th, 6th, and 8th grade math, which kind of worries me because I am learning along with them. And I will also be doing social studies. And she said eventually I will be taking over everything. And like I said, it was just hard because she seriously had everything all planned out, and she didn't ever really teach up in front of the board. It was more of a teaching out of the book, which is fine. My next slide is student behavior and classroom management. So this absolutely blew me away. The students were amazing. They were always on task. They knew what they were supposed to be doing. She is so organized. She has a classroom set up in such a way that if she were to have a sub, the sub pretty much wouldn't have to do anything except teach because she has everything set up. She has all the homework set up for the year in binders, 5th, 6th, and 8th grade binders, and the students just have to turn to the week it is and pick out their homework. It's amazing. I couldn't believe how organized she was. The 8th graders never once had to be reminded to stay on task, but the 5th and the 6th grader had to be reminded a couple times throughout the 14 days, but that was pretty much it. She was so organized, and I just hope I can be as organized as her. I am super excited to be coming back to student teach after Christmas. The students weren't sad to see me leave, but they also knew I was going to be back. So yeah, that was my TWS. Thank you.